There is a quiet moment that almost everyone has lived, though few ever name it. You are sitting across from someone you barely know, a stranger, really. And somehow, without planning to, you say something honest, something unpolished, something you rarely say out loud. Later, you might wonder why it felt easier to say it there, why the words came without effort, why the risk felt small, even though the truth was large. It is a strange thing, this comfort with strangers. Stranger still, when you realize that the people who know you best often hear less of your truth than those who know you not at all. When was the last time you surprised yourself by opening up to someone you would likely never see again? A person on a train, a late-night conversation online, a cashier who asked how your day was, and somehow meant it. Psychologists have long noticed this paradox, that intimacy, real intimacy, does not always feel safest with those closest to us. In fact, closeness can feel dangerous in a way anonymity never does. A stranger has no history with you, no archive of your past mistakes, no expectations waiting quietly behind their eyes. With them, you are not required to be consistent. You are not obligated to remain the same person you were yesterday. You are free to speak from the moment rather than the story. Friends and family, on the other hand, know your patterns. They know your roles. They know the version of you that has been reinforced over time. And once a version of you has been witnessed repeatedly, it hardens. It becomes something you feel responsible for maintaining. Psychologists sometimes describe this as identity preservation. The mind does not just protect the body, it protects the self-image it has learned to survive with. And when someone knows you deeply, they also know the shape of that image. To reveal something that does not fit it feels like a threat. You may not consciously think this. It happens quietly, as a subtle hesitation, a pause before honesty. With strangers, that pause often disappears, because anonymity is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. There is something profoundly human about wanting to be seen, but only partially. To be witnessed without being remembered, to be heard without being held to it later. A stranger does not say, "But you've always been this way." They do not remind you of who you were last year. They do not compare today's feelings with yesterday's behavior. They receive what you offer, and then they let it go. This is why confession booths existed long before psychology named the phenomenon, why people write letters they never send, why online forums fill with truths that never leave the screen. Because being truly known carries weight. When someone close to you knows your fear, they also know where you are vulnerable. Even if they would never use it against you, the mind imagines the possibility, and imagination alone is sometimes enough to close the door. Trusting strangers is not a sign of naivety, it is often a sign of self-protection. The brain is not designed to seek truth, it is designed to seek safety. And safety does not always look like closeness. Sometimes it looks like distance that cannot follow you home. Think about the kind of honesty that comes out at night, when the world is quieter, when no one is watching you perform. The thoughts that surface when you are alone, or when you believe you are unobserved. A stranger, psychologically speaking, can feel like a temporary version of solitude, a human presence without consequence. You speak, and there is relief in knowing that nothing needs to come from it. No long-term change, no renegotiation of who you are allowed to be. Friends change the future. Strangers live only in the present. This is why intimacy feels heavy. It stretches across time. When you reveal yourself to someone who will still be there tomorrow, you are not just sharing a moment, you are shaping a relationship. You are adding information to a living system that will remember it. The mind understands this instinctively, and so it tightens. Psychologists who study attachment have found that for many people, closeness activates old alarms, not because something bad is happening now, but because something once did. The nervous system does not distinguish between past and present as clearly as we would like to believe. It remembers sensations more than stories. And if being seen once led to pain, the body learns to associate visibility with risk. A stranger has not hurt you yet, and more importantly, they cannot hurt you again. There is a beginning and an end already built into the interaction. This is why vulnerability with strangers can feel strangely controlled. You decide how much to give. You decide when it ends. You walk away intact, unchanged in their eyes. With people who love you, there is no clean exit. What you share stays alive. Sometimes trusting strangers is less about them and more about the absence of permanence. It is easier to step into deep water when you know you can step out immediately. There is also the matter of expectation. Those who know you well often hope things from you, even silently. They hope you will be stable, predictable, consistent. And when you are not, when you reveal confusion or contradiction, it can feel like letting them down. A stranger has no such hopes. You are not disappointing anyone by being complex. In fact, strangers often receive your complexity with curiosity rather than concern. They do not rush to fix it. They do not reinterpret it through years of shared memory. They simply listen. And being listened to without interruption, without correction, without history, is a rare psychological luxury. This is why some people feel more themselves in places they do not belong. New cities, anonymous conversations, temporary communities. There is freedom in not being defined yet. But beneath all of this is a quieter truth, one that is harder to face. Being truly known means being seen not just in your words, but in your patterns, in your contradictions, in the distance between who you think you are and how you actually live. Strangers hear your narrative. Close ones see your behavior, and behavior is harder to defend. So the mind chooses the safer form of exposure, the kind that feels deep but does not linger. Psychologists sometimes call this selective vulnerability, sharing emotions without sharing responsibility, expressing pain without allowing it to reshape relationships. It is not deception, it is survival. You may even notice that after opening up to a stranger, you feel lighter, not because something was solved, but because something was released. The truth was allowed to exist without consequence. That in itself can be healing. But it can also quietly reinforce the belief that closeness is dangerous, that truth is safer when it does not echo back at you later. And so the cycle continues. Trust flows outward rather than inward. Depth moves sideways instead of down. None of this makes you broken. It makes you human. The mind learned at some point that being fully known carried a cost, and it adapted. It found ways to speak without being seen too clearly, to connect without being exposed. There is wisdom in that adaptation, and there is sadness in it too. Because while strangers offer safety through distance, they cannot offer continuity. They cannot walk with you through change. They cannot reflect your growth over time. They hear a chapter, not the story. And yet, sometimes a chapter is all you can hold. If you listen closely, you might notice that trusting strangers is not about avoiding connection. It is about controlling the shape of it, keeping it light enough to carry. The fear is not of intimacy itself. It is of being fixed in someone else's mind, of being reduced, misunderstood, or remembered incorrectly. A stranger forgets you exactly as you were, and there is peace in that. Perhaps the deeper question is not why you trust strangers more than friends, but what kind of safety you are still searching for. Safety from judgment, safety from obligation, safety from becoming a version of yourself you cannot escape. Understanding this does not demand change. It does not require courage or confrontation. It only asks for gentleness. Because every way you learned to trust was shaped by something that mattered, something that once needed protecting. And when you see that clearly, without criticism, something subtle shifts. You stop judging your distance. You stop rushing your openness. You begin to recognize that trust is not a flaw or a virtue. It is a language. And like all languages, it was learned in a specific place, under specific conditions, for very specific reasons. To notice this is not to solve it. It is simply to sit with it. And sometimes being seen by yourself, without anonymity, without distance, without fear, is the quietest form of trust there is.